All right. I think we are live here. Let's give everyone a chance to get on. I'm so excited, guys. Thank you for tuning in tonight. I'm really excited because I figured out how to do something with technology, and that's always a really, really awesome thing. But I'm really excited because I have Andrea here, and I'm going to have her introduce herself here in just a second so I can give you guys some time to share this video, come on. But the reason why I wanted to do this video is because I've said this over and over again. Dr. Nathan says this in a lot of the videos that we share, that someone's mindset really does determine how well they're going to get in our office and when we're coaching them. And lately, through Facebook, through people that have come into our office, through people that I'm coaching, myself as a doctor, I can see signs where I'm just like, no, this is not good. There's a lot of fear and anxiety. There's a lot of worry. We're living at a time where we can't control what's happening in our environment. But one thing I do know is that we can control what's happening internally. Like, we can control how we respond to our environment. And doing that has lasting change on ourselves, on our mental wellness, on our health overall. So I wanted to have Andrea come on here and really give you guys this information, how to spot the signs that you need to slow down. I'm talking to a lot of you moms out there. My goodness, you think you can homeschool like the teachers at their school and make the great lunch and do part-time work or help out with your husband. Like, I want this, guys, for you to be a chance where you notice, hey, these are the signs that I'm not doing well, both men and women, and what to do about it. So here's Andrea. Hi, Andrea. Thank you for coming on tonight.
Hey, no problem. I'm excited to be here.
Well, cool. So tell us about, you are not a licensed massage therapist.
Yes.
I wrote the wrong initials on our little picture graphics. So tell us what you do, what you study in, and why you decided to do this.
Yeah, I am a licensed marriage and family therapist at Roots Counseling Center, and that's on Dayton Boulevard in Red Bank. And I have been a counselor. I graduated in 2013 with my master's degree. And at Lee University, I studied play therapy, which is a specific type of therapy for kids ages like 4 to 12-ish. And then from there, I did some community mental health where I got really passionate about working with trauma. So since then, I've been doing a lot of work with trauma and anxiety. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. So you do a lot of work with trauma and anxiety. So you sent me some notes and I was like reading this and I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I'm seeing. What made you decide to go into counseling?
Yeah, when I was younger, I think maybe like 10, my parents did foster care. So I was really exposed to kids with a lot of trauma and kids with a lot of anxiety. And I grew up in a really small town. And we didn't really have any mental health resources that I was aware of at the time. So a lot of these kids were going without any counseling or any mental health support. So I just kind of like, the older I got and the more I thought about what I wanted to do, I knew I wanted to help people. And I knew that I was a relational person, and then kind of that evolved into studying counseling.
That's really awesome. That's really sad, like that these kids go through that, because things that happen, right now, these children right now are living at a time, and maybe even in the next few years, where this world's going to look very different, and it could be very hard. So if you guys are in Chattanooga, Andrea is at Roots Counseling. This is what she specializes in, is trauma, anxiety, and play therapy with kids. But you coach all ages.
Yes.
Well, you I coach counsel all ages. And so, one thing I wanted to touch on is, you wrote this, and this is in our caption, guys, but I think this is so huge right now, because I deal with a lot of women that have hormone issues and thyroid issues and stuff like that. And what I find is that a lot of people will look fine and good and pretty and have this really nice smile on the outside, and they are struggling, breaking down on the inside. And one thing that you said that they've already started, you notice, or you got the information somewhere that there's already been a serious uptick. And I've read articles on this as well with anxiety and depression, substance abuse. I mean, guys, I like wine, but you can also abuse wine to deal with anxiety, to deal with a long day that you couldn't really handle, and things like child abuse and suicide. And so, one thing I think it's really interesting that you brought up is that we naturally, as humans, have a sympathetic survival stress response. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because what I want you guys that are watching, I want you guys to share this video. You never know who's needing to hear this right now. But what I asked Andrea to share is the signs that you need to be aware of, signs that you are pushing your limits, that your spouse might be pushing their limits, that people that you love or you care for, like the signs, the red flags that you need to pay attention to, that it's not to be ignored and to just get by, because that's when you have breakdowns, not only with your health, but mentally. That's when you have a breakdown. That's where you can find yourself up late at night crying or struggling or things running through your mind. That's when you can wake up feeling really down. Like I hear a lot of women in my office say, like, I wake up in the morning and I feel like this kind of like heaviness on me that I just can't shake. So what I want Andrea to share with you guys is understanding that your stress response, like the survival response in the midst of the chaos that's going on, and how to notice it in yourself and your loved ones.
Yeah, so that stress response that you mentioned, I always talk about it as fight, flight, or freeze. So those are the kind of three different ways our body might respond to intense stress and anxiety. So if you are if you tend towards being a fighter under stress, you might notice like irritability, feeling like you are on edge, kind of like anything might set you off. You might find yourself like clenching quite a bit, and containing a lot of stress in your body, and like you might explode at any minute. If you're a freezer and you tend to kind of numb out, you might find yourself freezing by kind of like becoming hazy or glassy-eyed. We sometimes call that like dissociating in therapy, where you kind of check out from your body.
Like you just don't care about stuff? Is that what it is? Like you just, like, is it someone that would avoid fighting because they just don't care? Or how would it look like?
Yeah, I don't know if I would use the word care. I think it's more of like just like a survival mechanism. Like in order to survive, I have to check out right now because I'm not okay. So that checking out might just be kind of like a numbness, or it might be like I am scrolling on my phone, or I'm watching Netflix, or I'm using a substance to pacify some big emotions inside my body because it's just not safe to feel them right now.
Ooh, the technology one. That's gonna hurt a little bit. Yeah, like I could easily see that. I mean, I know there'd be time and seasons in my life where like I couldn't control things throughout the day. Like I don't have a thyroid, so I can find myself struggling when I'm off with my hormones. But when I would feel overwhelmed, I noticed that I would spend more time on my phone, like just zoning out on nothing, like nothing that mattered. So that's considered kind of that freeze response where you're just numbing out, so it's just really hard to deal with.
Yeah, and I'm sure you would say it's not because you don't care about your family that you're freezing, but it's more like critical in that moment that you check out because it's like a safety mechanism for you in that moment.
Yeah, and that's where wine can come into play too. I see a lot of women. Listen, wine is great. I do dry farm wines. I love my wine, but I can find that a lot of people, there's a lot of jokes about it, where maybe it is fine for maybe 60% of the women out there, maybe 40% of them are drinking to just undo what they just can't handle, like just to just kind of shut down and zone out. And yeah, I think that's a really big one that can become dangerous if you're not paying attention to it, right?
Sure, absolutely.
So we get fight one is, what did you say, like signs that you're kind of, you need to take a step back. Fighting is kind of just, how would you describe that again?
Fighting, yeah, like you might be irritable, you might be combative, you might be raising your voice when you don't really want to. And again, it's like, it's your body sensing that there's a threat. So like you're kind of bolstering yourself up, kind of as a way to feel like strong and in control, when really it's like a response to stress.
You know who I read a study. I saw that for a lot of men, a lot of older men, one of their first signs that they can lead to depression was anger.
Yeah. Totally.
And that would make sense if they're just feeling really imbalanced with everything.
Yeah. I say about anger all the time is that it can be a mask to cover up more vulnerable emotions, such as fear, because fear is really scary to engage with. But like being angry is a little bit easier, and it helps you to just feel like strong and powerful. So a lot of people struggle with anger as a way to maybe kind of numb or downplay more vulnerable feelings.
Yeah, so that's something I feel like could be really important in a house where like someone you love is just lashing out or getting angry or have a short fuse with the kids. And you're not understanding why. It's because it's not necessarily they're angry, they're just really struggling and maybe very fearful.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely.
And then flight, that one was?
Yeah, that might be like just like an escape kind of thing. So maybe that's escaping to work. Maybe that's escaping through hobbies. Maybe that's literally starts to feel conflict and jumps in a car and leaves because conflict is so scary, or the fear in front of them is so scary that they need to check out.
Yeah. Well, all of those things make sense because they're all like very ancestral survival mechanisms. This is everything we would do if we were being hunted by a tiger. We're going to fight, we're going to run away, we're going to freak out and just stay in place. That makes sense that your body, and I say this in the office, stress is stress. Whether you're being chased by a tiger or coronavirus or loss of job or loss of business, stress is stress is stress. You still have that same survival response. So that's so important to notice those signs in the people that you love, and notice especially that sign in yourself that something is wrong and you need to take a step back. One thing I really like that you sent me was talking about grief. Let's talk about grief right now, because I'm pretty sure I went through this as well.
Yeah, I mean, there are really a lot of valid things to grieve right now. There are a lot of losses going on. You know, people all over the country are losing loved ones to the virus, but on top of that, we're losing physical connection with each other, which is so huge. Like, I mean, you and I can't be in the same space right now because we're practicing social distancing, right?
Yeah.
On top of that, there's like canceled plans, canceled weddings and funerals, maybe a loss of a sense of safety or a loss of autonomy. And a really big one right now, especially, is loss of jobs. Like being laid off is really huge and really painful right now.
Yeah, I think that's such a big feeling. Like I live in the city. I live in Southside, and I went between anger and like feeling sad because like I know a lot of the people that work there, a lot of people that work in the restaurant business. I see them around these. I've met a lot of people that own the businesses there, and to, every evening go out there and see that no one is there. It was really hard for me, and I just kept getting angry. And I think now is I'm grieving, and grieving can look so many different ways, even like losing how life used to be, even, grieving that your kids might be in a very stressful environment right now, and grieving that your kids, I mean, it's okay to grieve even like your kid's birthday was canceled or your daughter's wedding was canceled. I think that's so huge because right now it is a time of grieving because life might not ever be the same for a lot of you guys. And what I loved about what you wrote on here is that it's okay to grieve those things, to be sad. I like the word, I like that you used grief. Like,
yeah,
it's not just sadness. It's really a loss. There's a loss of a lot of things that we are allowed to say, I'm not happy about that, and I'm sad about that, and I'm frustrated, and I'm angry. And you could still care about the people that have the virus, like, or, people that are in the hospital, and still be really upset that things aren't the same, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I would say, in addition to that, like what we're experiencing is what in the mental health world we might call complicated or complex grief, because we're grieving more than one thing, and the grief doesn't have like a specific beginning and end. Like when you lose someone that you love, it's really terrible, but you know that that life has ended, and that helps your body to begin that process of grief. But right now, we're kind of in a complicated or this grief where we don't really know when it's going to end, and I think that's important that people kind of process through those feelings as well.
That's so true. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so true because it could, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. So I could see how that can be so complicated. So,
Yeah.
of course, we don't want to tell everyone, you guys are struggling right now. You have all these feelings and these emotions. But we do want to talk about what to do about it because this is a big deal. To like, see, Dr. Nathan and I, we're the type of people that we believe that counseling should be at all times. Like when things are good, let's just be preventative. Let's just check in with each other. Let's just make sure we're good. And then, especially if things are really, really difficult going, I think it can be really beneficial in all areas. But let's talk about what people can do right now. One thing you had on here, and I was like, we need to start with this one because we have a lot of followers that are struggling with this. How about with kids, like kids being outside of school, like kids being home all the time?
Yeah, so I'll start on a positive note, and that is that I specialize in working with kids. So I'm meeting regularly with a lot of kids like ages 4 to 12, and that population right now is actually doing a lot better than I expected. So that's kind of cool because they love being with their parents. They love attachment and security and connection. So a lot of kids are actually really joyful to be at home with their families right now. Of course, that adds a lot of like added pressure to parents, but something I wrote in my notes was like, hey, I think it's really important to recognize like the most important thing you're doing right now is keeping your kids alive and letting them know that you love them and they're safe. And maybe turning in the math assignment isn't the most important thing. Maybe the most important thing is that you deeply love them and that you're going to protect them from the virus and everything else. So that would be like just kind of my first pointer for parents is, school is important, but it's not the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Some other things I would say, like, it's really important and totally okay to ask for help. I think it's really important to recognize, like, the whole it takes a village thing. Like, ask your spouse for help, ask your neighbor for help, ask for Zoom meetings with your therapist or your chiropractor or your best friend. Those things are super important.
That's huge. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that we can be a little hard on ourselves, especially with what we think our children expect from us. Like, I needed to hear that because sometimes when I have my day off to be a mom, I'm like, we gotta go explore and do all this. And really, like, Elijah just wants me to play dinosaurs with him, or play trains with him. And I think one thing to remember right now is that you parents that kids are at home right now, you're not homeschooling, okay? Maybe you're at home and maybe there's school involved. Well, homeschooling looks very different. First of all, you're not homeschooling. If you choose to homeschool before this pandemic or after, you're not doing it out of force. Like when people choose to homeschool, they research, they see, they have plans, they decide what works for their family, what works for their kids. They also, especially here in Chattanooga, and I'm sure in other cities, they have co-ops that you can go to and sports and activities, and people are at work. There's usually a spouse at work. Like it's a completely different environment. And I think the problem is that when schools were closed, everyone was like, okay, now we're homeschooling. You're not homeschooling because now you're feeling overwhelmed and pressured to keep up and to have the iPad out all the time and respond and do the homework and do all this stuff. If you can take a step back and kind of like what you said, like what do our kids need to be well? And this is the other thing. There's studies on this. Children are learners. Like they're going to learn. We did not have structured schooling all of human existence, but we were pretty good with inventions, okay? Like kids will learn. there isn't this pressure to have to do everything. Like you're like, you don't have to do the math homework like all the time. Don't beat yourself up to meet these expectations that no one needs you to meet. And I think that's really huge. And cocktail hours with mom meetings on Zoom. I haven't been invited to one of those yet. That's so cool.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of mom friends doing that. I jotted that down in my notes because I thought it was just funny. Like, I think that's a good way to have community, though. Like when kids are like head to sleep, or maybe your spouse is like getting them ready for bed and doing baths. I think it's totally okay to like connect with your people and your tribe, and maybe you drink wine or tea and talk through your day and process. But I do really think it's important to name the feelings out loud that you're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's huge. And I said that too in my notes. Like, I think a lot of people, especially moms right now, are thinking like, I have to keep it all together. Like, everyone's going through this. I don't have the right to be upset. I shouldn't freak out. But I think that's not the truth. I think the truth is like, when we model healthy emotion for our kids and our kids know it's safe to talk to mom about how I feel. Like if mom cries when she's sad, then kids know, oh, it's okay for me to cry and tell mom that I'm sad. So really, I think it actually fosters connection to be open about how you're feeling.
That's really good. I like that. Like sometimes I have to remind myself of that. Like, Elijah, I'm just not having the greatest day, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna do this. We're gonna do this together. Let's go outside or let's dance. We've been doing a lot of dancing lately because Lord knows my 4-year-old Elijah's anyway, so we've been doing a lot of dancing to change our attitude and to lift that funk and not feel like we have to do stuff. All right, so let's talk about some other coping stuff that you had put here. And I'll make sure if you guys are listening to kind of do a little quick synopsis of everything that we're talking about here. But yeah, let's talk about kind of specific coronavirus, COVID coping mechanisms that people can do right now.
For sure. So you'd rather me talk specifics first and then maybe some generals for anxiety after that?
Yeah, let's do that. Some specific stuff you guys can do.
Yeah, so I took some notes on an article which you can find on Psychology Today.
I'll probably post that in the comments for everyone.
Yeah, that would be awesome. It was written by actually one of my college friends, Ben Andrews, and he wrote, and has a doctorate in psychology, and so he wrote some really good tips that are very specific to some of the feelings specifically that are a result of social distancing, so being away from people in a time that we really need people the most. He wrote some really cool tips, so I can give you some of those, and one of them is routine. So just keeping up your self-care basics, like, you know, maybe I've seen a meme on Facebook, like switching from your day pajamas to your night pajamas, like, but actually do that, like switch your clothes out, take showers.
Maybe like get ready as if you're gonna go out.
Yeah. Brush your teeth, brush your hair, do things that create a sense of ritual, because ritual creates a sense of safety. I think that's what we all are longing for right now, is a sense of safety.
That's really good. Awesome.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna ask you something, but now I forgot what I was gonna ask because I was thinking about that. I'm like, it's a good one because a lot of people are just kind of like bumming it out all day, but taking that action. Like I also read something about if you start your day by making your bed first thing in the morning, you've already conquered something. Like you've already conquered the first thing. You can do other things, and you don't think about those small actions, what they can do to your brain, and even kind of like how you're feeling just by doing something small in the morning.
Yeah, because it's tangible. You feel the feeling of making your bed, and then your body remembers that feeling day in and day out, and it creates a sense of consistency and a sense of achievement. So I think that's really super good for your brain. Some of the other ones I have are to connect. There's a lot of good video outlets. Zoom that we're using right now is a great one. I know a lot of therapists all over the world are creating mental health support groups on Zoom, which is really awesome. But you can create your own with your friends. But I think it is really important to stay connected. I've been seeing people have friends come into their backyard and you put your lawn chairs 6 feet apart, but you still have some face-to-face connection. I think those kinds of things are really great because I think connection is really important in terms of feeling well.
That's a good idea. And I'll say this, social distancing doesn't mean you can't go outside.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't mean you can't go. The problem is they don't want a ton of people together, close together. I like that idea, just going outside and sitting outside. Or I saw one where like these women just kind of drove their car to a parking lot and they all just kind of sat in the trunk and just hung out separate, like the 6 feet from each other. I think that's huge. I think people think that they can only stay in their house, and that's hard. That's really
Yeah.
hard.
It's really hard. It's really good to change up your environment, even if it's moving to your porch, to the yard, to a parking lot with friends.
Yeah.
Those are all good things. I think right now it's really important to practice self-compassion and to be kind to yourself. I think there's a lot of people using really negative words towards themselves right now. We talked a lot about moms, and I think that shows up a lot with moms, like, if I could just do XYZ, or I'm not a good enough teacher, or because my kid failed his math test, I'm a bad mom, or I just don't have my stuff together like so-and-so has their stuff together. So something that I talk to my clients a lot about is, I'd like for you to take those words you just said about yourself and pause. I'd like for you to say them as if you were saying them to your best friend. And if you can't stomach those words, then don't say them to yourself. So if I can't be like, hey, Rebecca, you don't have your crap together, then I should not say it to myself.
Yeah.
But instead change the words to be what you would say to your friend. Like, hey, this is really hard. We're all struggling right now, and it's okay that you feel that way. If you can say that to a friend, you can in turn say that to yourself and practice some self-compassion.
I also want to point something out though. I think that example is a good, perfect example as to why people do need counseling or do need people that they can talk to, because you can have a whole conversation in your head and sometimes you don't even notice what you're telling yourself until someone hears it and can say like, why are you saying that? Why are you saying that about yourself? You're not that bad, or you're not that hard, or someone that can kind of call out those toxic thoughts. I think that's really important. I find a lot of men and women don't notice it, even when they're talking to me. They're just talking about how they drank a Diet Coke when they shouldn't, and their talk is like, oh, I just screw up, I just can't do this, and it's all this really negative talk about themselves just because they had a Diet Coke. And I'm like, I don't like Diet Coke, but it's just not that much where you have to like, beat yourself up. And I think it's huge to be able to have someone you can go to, that you can talk through with that, and they can help you work through that. I think that's really important too.
Yeah, for sure. That's such a big part about counseling, is just reflecting back to people what they're saying out loud, because they might not know that they're saying it.
I think that's huge.
Another big list is gratitude. I've heard Dr. Nathan talk about this on Facebook Live before, and I know this is something that you guys have talked about, but gratitude journaling, there's some data that would say that actually changes your brain, and it just refocuses your thoughts. Because there's a lot of things outside of our control right now, but one thing that we can control is like how we shift our focus. And if we can shift our focus from the things outside of our control into things that we are grateful for, big or small, that can really change our brain.
Yeah, I think I'm also not like I'm not like a journaling person or a touchy feeling person, but I heard that and we read it. And so what I noticed was, if I started my day thinking about things that I was grateful for, I subconsciously looked for them throughout the day. Like, if I thought about, man, I really enjoyed this yesterday, and there was this moment where Elijah did this and this, then throughout the day I would be sitting in my car and I'd be like, oh man, I'm going to write this down. Like, I'm really thankful for that. The sun is shining and I have this coffee that tastes so good. Like, and you can carry that throughout your day, because it's kind of like the yellow, what is it? Like the yellow car, like you never see yellow cars, but you think you're going to buy one, or your friend's going to buy one. And then the rest of the day and all week, all you see is yellow cars everywhere. You find what you focus on. And I absolutely think doing a gratitude journal, just being thankful in the morning, can really change things. I mean, I've noticed it even for myself. It's cool.
Yeah, totally. The last one on that list was just empowering yourself. So it kind of comes back to like things inside of your control, and taking action in those areas of your life if you have the bandwidth to do so. So, you can control maybe what media you consume during a really stressful time like this. Maybe you can control what time you wake up in the morning, or whether or not you make your bed, or if you move your body. So focusing on those things that are inside of your control can be really good during something as uncertain as what is going on right now.
Like turning off the stinking news.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
You know it's out there. You know it's out there. You know it's happening. You know what you have to do. You don't have to leave the news on all day long. I promise if something crazy happens, someone will call you and tell you. I completely agree with that. A lot of people need to be turning off social media, deleting Facebook, turning off the news, and reading a book.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
So that was kind of the overall. And then you said you had some specific things.
Yeah, I have some specific things for anxiety. That's kind of like stuff specifically related to coronavirus stuff and just like the social distancing. But in terms of like managing stress, I had written down a few tools that I practice regularly with my clients. So if you'd like to hear some of them, I'm going to go over them. So I think anxiety can kind of come in two parts: what happens in our thoughts and then what happens in our body. So I wrote down some tools for our thoughts and also for what happens inside your body. So in terms of thoughts, you actually posted this picture of the cognitive triangle on Facebook. But the cognitive triangle is kind of this graph where the top point is your thoughts, and then the next point down here are your feelings, and then followed by that is your actions. And I like to talk to people about how like people only see the action part of that triangle. No one sees your thoughts or feelings. So often we're just told to change our actions or behaviors. We're told, stop doing this, stop doing that, do this, do that. But really, like under the surface, we have thoughts and feelings. And I really do think a lot of it starts in our thoughts. So I work with people on identifying the negative thought that might be at the core of the negative behavior. So like maybe you're sitting with a kid, the kid is throwing a tantrum, and if you're able to get to the kid and say like, what are you feeling right now? Maybe they're feeling angry, and then, okay, let's figure out what the underlying thought is. Maybe the thought was like, I'm not in control, or I'm not safe, or something like that. And maybe that thought's not true. And so if you can help the friend, the child, the spouse to identify a positive thought, then a lot of times if you can identify a positive thought, then you can change the feeling, and then you can change behavior after that. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I really do think tracing behavior back to thought helps us to kind of reorient.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I read this book called Atomic Habits, and a lot of people think that like they can just break bad habits. Like I just got to have my drive. I just got to do it 21 days. And the one thing this book really opened my eyes to is exactly what you're talking about, that the habit isn't by will. Like you might be able to do something by will, just push yourself to change short term. It's not going to be long lasting unless you address what's that cue, that response, that thing, that internal thing. Something triggered you internally, and then you create an action on the outside. So a lot of times we think we're okay, like, like we think we could be okay, and we're pushing down all these feelings, but it's all going to come out in different ways. The only way we can change that is by changing how we're feeling, pretty much. Right?
Yeah.
So how would that kind of like look for coronavirus? Like, are you saying like kind of like with fear or uncertainty, or?
So maybe some behaviors that we're seeing with the coronavirus are that people are like maybe hoarding food or staying totally indoors, shut in their room. So that would be a behavior that we can see. So let's trace that backwards. If the behavior we can see is maybe hoarding food or hiding in their dark house alone, let's go back to whatever feeling that might be. So if we're tracing it back on the triangle, we're going from behavior over to feeling. So in the feelings category, I think we can all probably guess that that's fear, right? Like, probably so. So what are some of the thoughts? Like, the thought could be, I'm going to die, or I'm unsafe, or the world is ending. So maybe changing the thought to saying like, I'm in control of my surroundings. I am safe here at home. Or even like challenging with some facts. Okay, the data says my age, this is, my health level, blah, blah, blah. So the data says this is my percent chance of getting coronavirus. So maybe that takes that fear down a few notches, and maybe that fear could even turn into a feeling of like steady, or a feeling of peace, or a feeling of empowerment. So if that feeling changes because the thought changed, then we click back over into our behaviors, and maybe the behavior is, okay, I'm going to the grocery store once a week, I'm stocking up on necessities, but I'm not hoarding groceries. Or maybe the behavior changes to, okay, I'm realizing there's an importance in going outside and moving my body to boost my immune system and take care of myself. So if we go from behavior to feeling to thought, change the thought, we can come back around and the behavior changes.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah, I think that's really huge. I think a lot of people are acting in certain ways because they're so fearful. Like I think I had seen something earlier about someone was getting onto someone else because they took their kid out walking in the playground, which is completely fine as long as they're not near anyone. But this person was just calling them out and just being very aggressive. And that behavior really sucks. But if I'm sure this person's feeling completely out of control, who knows if they lost their job or their spouse lost their job, they don't know anything. And they have all this fear of losing that they have to just like be in control. Yeah, I can definitely see that even through social media, how people have, these actions and reactions, and it's all something deeper.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. And so did you have any other specific tips on that one? I lost myself on the notes. I was just like doing everything.
And then, moving from thoughts to like body. Because anxiety, sometimes like your thoughts are totally calm. You know in your thoughts that you are safe and you're well, but your body is just reacting without your permission. I don't know if you've experienced that before, but maybe like heart palpitations or tightness in your chest, tension in your muscles. So even if you can like think all the logical thoughts, sometimes your body's still reacting. So I thought maybe it would be helpful for those people who fall into that category to talk a little bit about anxiety in your body and how that manifests and how to take care of it. So one tool I use a lot in therapy is to help people engage with their five senses. Because if we engage with our five senses, a lot of times it's very grounding and soothing, and it tells our body that we're in the present moment. And usually the present moment is not the trigger. It's either that we're ruminating on the past, or maybe we're fearing the future. We're afraid of what's next. But if we can use our five senses to cue our body to recognize, I'm right here, I'm right now, a lot of times that anxiety in our body drops.
Oh, so it's kind of like, I've always said, like sometimes people will just be in cruise control, like how you can just drive home and not remember, like you're acting, but you don't even remember the drive home. But if something like jumps in front of your car, you're all of a sudden aware and you can see everything and everything that's going on. That's probably why I make the kids dance, because I'm like, dude, you just gotta come back, focus.
Come back. Yeah, dancing's a great one, actually. That's another.
Yeah, I was going to say, someone just commented that on the news tonight in New York City at 5, everyone young and old came out to their balcony, porch, and sidewalk and danced to music a DJ was playing, keeping their distance, of course. Oh, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like an example of just kind of like getting yourself and getting more present. I think I could definitely see that. I can definitely see that in a lot of situations.
That connects you to other people and that gets you in your body. That's really cool. I love that.
Me too. That's awesome.
Yeah. The other one I had written down was breath work. So really slowing and regulating your breath. I like to tell people a really good rule of thumb is to make your out breath double as long as your in breath. And that can be really soothing to your nervous system.
Okay, so say that again. So out breath is longer than your in breath?
In breath. So maybe you breathe in for like 4 seconds.
Okay.
And then you hold it for a second and then you breathe out for 8.
I wonder, like, because we're so stressed out and breathe so heavy, I find those exercises to be really tough. But I'm sure
Yeah.
you can. I'm also a very wild, anxious person too. Like I just go, go, go. Um,
It can be really hard to slow yourself down to do breathing in that way. And also, a lot of times you'll feel like the muscle in your chest is kind of tight because you've been constricting your breath for so long.
mm,
A lot of times when we are in that like stress response state, we're breathing like short little breaths all day long and not even realize that we're doing it. One thing people say all the time is, "Whoa, I had no idea that I was holding my breath."
that's really cool. So even just taking that time and just breathing when we're feeling overwhelmed and anxious and down, angry or out of control, and just using our breath to kind of recenter us. I'm going to be working on that. That's my next thing to work on is my breath work. I think that'll be really huge.
Yeah. I think maybe that is all the notes that I have, but definitely open to any questions that you have.
Yeah, awesome. So if you guys have any questions, we're kind of delayed here from the Facebook page or anything like that. But if you guys have any questions, you can always comment on our video. I think for a lot of people too, this could be something they don't want to comment about. You can always message us on Facebook if you have any questions. We can always forward the questions to Andrea. And if you guys are local to Chattanooga, I'm looking at the computer. I should be looking right here. So if you guys are local to Chattanooga, Andrea is at Roots Counseling in Red Bank.
Yes.
Right off Dayton, right?
Mm-hmm.
I still use a GPS to get around, so I'm like, where is that? But at Roots Counseling, and you specialize, because I know we said this at the beginning, specialize on trauma, anxiety, and play therapy. So if you could tell them just really quick one more time what you do with play therapy when it comes to kids, because I think this is such a cool idea to really reach kids.
Yeah, play therapy is a model of therapy based on the idea that kids don't really use language to express their feelings. They use play as their words to express how they feel. So my training involves basically being able to interpret the play of children and use play and narrative, games, art, tools like that to help kids to learn strategies to cope.
That's really cool. And then this is a really important question. Are you doing, like, I know you said you're doing Zoom stuff. Are you doing, like, can you do new people through Zoom and like virtual consults and stuff like that?
Yeah, I am accepting new clients right now, and I am doing pretty much everything virtually, barring like emergencies or special requests. Play therapy is really interesting on video, but it's been really cool. Like kids have been like helping me meet their pets or showing me around their room. Gotten to like see their toys and kind of learn their world. I've been doing a lot of like reading books and doing art via the video profile.
That is so cool. Well, guys, if you're looking for a counselor for your kids doing play therapy, or if you guys need someone, I think this is just a perfect time to, not just with everything that's going around, that if people haven't taken that chance to make the effort and go in, that can be seem really daunting. You can sit in your living room right now and be able to talk to a counselor. I think that's so huge.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Andrea, for joining us tonight. Again, guys, Andrea Moody, we really appreciate you sharing this information. If you guys have any questions, I'll make sure to post the link of the article she mentioned and some more information on how you guys can contact her if you have any questions. Have a good night, everyone.